Today is Wednesday, October the 11th, 2023 at 6 o'clock. I invite you to bow your head and say a word of prayer with us. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for this day that you've given us. Thank you for the time that we had to work together. I ask and pray that you will help us to lead the city of Darlington in the right directions, and everything that we say and do, honor and glorify you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. Just stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for approval of agenda for tonight?
I'll make the motion that we approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second. Second. Mr. Carter, Ms. Reed, Mr. Seeger, aye. Very good. Motion is carried. Thank you. All right. Tonight's workshop is Southwest Darlington Stormwater Drainage failure. Mr. Payne.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor and Council, in 2018, under prior council and Mayor Hines, the City of Darlington engaged in a project to improve stormwater drainage in Southwest Darlington. It started out as a ditch project of less than $500,000 and ballooned into a major stormwater project just shy of $3 million and was completed in mid-2019. About a year ago, city staff reported to me that serious problems developed in the project that was barely 3 years old. I enlisted the services of Stephen Moore, a respected forensic engineer from Charlotte, North Carolina, who performed an analysis of the project. He and our legal counsel, Nick Nicholson, are here this evening to report to you their findings to date and make recommendations. It is of particular importance to note that the City of Darlington issued a 20-year revenue bond in the amount of $2,417,000 on this project. And as of June 30th, 2023, we still have a balance due of $1,985,000. During the current fiscal year, the City of Darlington will make a bond payment through the Stormwater Fund, which is paid by all customers, of $181,315. This revenue bond matures in 15 years on May 1st, 2038. Upon finding out about the failure of the stormwater project, I had two options. One, do nothing and make city customers pay for the future repairs, or two, engage a forensic engineer and legal counsel to determine which parties are liable for the failure and make them pay for the repairs. I chose option two. The bottom line is that we want the City of Darlington to be made whole with a complete repair of the Southwest Stormwater Drainage project. And I will continue to work with Mr. Moore and Mr. Nicholson to do so.
All right. Mr. Moore, Mr. Nicholson.
Good evening. As you're aware, ABS has been requested to provide some information during this work session concerning the storm drain project. Following some notes that I'm going to utilize for my presentation. You as a council remember that I discussed with you in executive session some general issues associated with the storm drain project. I'd like to recap some of those major issues at this point. The pipe installation in the storm drain project has resulted in several areas of significant soil subsidence, especially behind the public works shop. Pipe and storm drain structures below that contain a large amount of sediment, which is impacting the hydraulic efficiency of the system. Storm drain structures lack access for maintenance. In other words, many of them do not have steps, and they are very deep. An open ditch does not appear to meet the required cross-section, which is necessary to carry the storm flow. There are no inverts within the storm drain structures. Pipe sizes reduce as the overall drainage basin increases, a direct contrast to what it should do. There appears to be a sanitary sewer discharge within the storm drain system. The storm drain system is a result of poor design and/or construction. Overall, from a storm drain operational standpoint, The system is not functional, does not appear to have the required capacity for the present stormwater loads. In fact, some of the stormwater pipes are significantly undersized. I'd like to recap a little bit of the timeline that I've been able to glean from contract information, from documentation, and from newspaper articles. In March of 2016, the grant was applied for a second time. In June 2016, there was a successful award in the amount of $445,000 to address what was called the Chalmers Street ditch. Hanna Engineering was selected as the engineer of record to design the project. Hanna comes back to the city shortly after beginning and says that the project needs to be enlarged. They added over 72 acres to the size of the system. Hanna's original estimate was $1.5 million. The first bid came in at $2.8 million. It was rebid with the low bid from Lansdowne Earth and Pipe of $2.567 million. A contract was awarded to Lansdowne Earth and Pipe on January 22nd, 2018 in the amount of $2,562,914. Notice to proceed from the City of Darlington was issued to Lansdowne on March 15, 2018. Early March 2018, the then City Council passed the first reading of the ordinance 2018-06 Master Stormwater Ordinance and a series ordinance for financing the Southwest Stormwater Project. The system was completed on or around May 10, 2019. It's important to note that the City of Darlington awarded a $2.563 million project to Lansdowne, directed the contractor to proceed, and did not have the funding in place to pay for it. I spent a lot of my career with the City of Charlotte, and I was a construction engineer, and I know that in North Carolina, you have to have your funds encumbered before you can go to work. I suspect South Carolina has a very similar requirement. It does appear there was a lack of fiduciary responsibilities and controls exhibited on this project, and I would equate that to a total failure of the process. However, that was not the first failure of this project. Who managed the project from day one? Were they qualified to manage the project? What was the original intent of the project, and what criteria was used to grow it to the 72 acres and the $2.6 million? How did a $445,000 grant turn into a $2.563 million and put the City of Darlington into a financial issue without proper and sufficient notification to the mayor, the council, and the manager? What was the storm drain design criteria? Who reviewed and approved the design that allowed for reduction of pipe sizes as the size of the basin increased, which would require larger pipes, not smaller ones? Who was responsible for the formal review and approval of the project? Projects like this have to be submitted to someone. DHEC or somebody has to review these and approve them. Who was expected to work to ensure that the project was actually built to the plan specifications? For example, poor installation practices, no steps, no inverts. There was required to be third-party soil testing, but there's no records of any of the soil testings, and you see the result of it, the soil subsidence. There was required to be as-built drawings provided by the contractor. We've never seen those. Does the system even work in a typical storm drain event? And it recommended that it's going to be existing systems going to have to be repaired to make it work in the future. Based on ABS's preliminary evaluation, portions of the storm drain system are inadequate, and the project could be described, at least in part, as a failure. In conclusion, the deficient performance of the existing stormwater system is a result of poor design and/or construction installation. The system appears to have been designed with undersized and incorrectly configured pipes with insufficient capacity to accommodate the peak discharge generated during rain events. Issues originating from the initial construction of the system improvements are contributing to system failures such as the soil subsidence and maintenance issues. Substantial soil subsidence is contributing to unsafe conditions around the pipe and inlets, as well as reducing the capacity due to soil buildup within the system. Finally, sanitary sewer that ties to the stormwater poses a health and environmental risk to the downtown water bodies and to the public health. As a third party outside, there are multiple questions that do not appear to have proper answers. I believe that the Manager Payne and his senior management team have been very open and honest with me with the information they have and shared with me and what they know and don't know. My recommendation is that the project have a thorough investigation to determine how this came about. Certainly, some of the findings may not be flattering, but as you as the leaders of the city, and more importantly, the city and the taxpayers of Darlington are entitled to know how their taxes are being spent and why they have a non-functional storm drainage system that will impact budgets for years to come. The investigation, I believe, requires someone with the ability to issue document and deposition subpoenas in order to gain a clear understanding of the full price. ABS cannot do that. That is not within our realm. We don't have that power. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Nicholson at this point.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nick Nicholson. I'm a lawyer with Henry Sinclair Boyd here in South Carolina. So what Mr. Moore has laid out is, I said there's some questions. One thing, or two things, there aren't really any question based upon my review of Mr. Moore's report, based upon my discussions with Mr. Moore, is that you've got issues with both the design and construction of the project. And so, what we've done so far, and I don't want to get in too much detail of what we've done so far. If we do go into much greater detail, I would ask to go into executive session. But what I can tell you is that we sent correspondence to the surety company and to the design firm, and really haven't gotten any satisfactory response. And so the next stage that if the city wants to proceed with pursuing issues related to design and construction, the next stage is to send a further correspondence to the contractor and to the designer pursuant to the South Carolina Right to Cure Act. And basically, under our state law, before an action is commenced to bring a construction, to bring a lawsuit against either a design professional or construction professional, you basically have to give them notice under pursuant to the statute with certified mail that says, this is what we think the problem is. You have a right to reach out to us, to cure it, to tell us what you intend to do to repair the problem, or if you don't do that, we're going to go to court. The statute allows 90 days for that process to play out. The designer and whoever gets the notice has 60 days to respond to your letter. And so, in my opinion, there's really no need to wait to send that out. Mr. Payne said he decided to take action. We're going to continue to take action. That's the next step. And so there's really no need to wait in order to take that next step. If you do send those letters, you are not committing to a lawsuit. If eventually you want to say, for instance, if one or more of the parties that we think performed bad work came back and gave us a reasonable response, then you wouldn't have to go forward with the lawsuit. So you're not committing yourself to really anything with what you're doing now. You are taking the next step in moving this project forward. I do agree with Mr. Moore, there are some things that we don't know. And there may be some things that we will discover. If we do go to a lawsuit, we can discover through the course of, it's called discovery, through asking written interrogatories and requests for documents, taking depositions, issuing subpoenas to people. And so through that process, who knows what we may find. We may find some answers to a lot of the, we likely would find some answers to many of the questions Mr. Moore proposed here tonight. But in summary, the next stage is to send a specific letter pursuant to the statute to the contractor, to the designer. We would also include the contractor's bonding company as well. And that doesn't take a lot of effort. It's about a 1 to 2 page letter. And, but that's the next step. And my advice is if council wants to move forward, is that we take that step. That's all I have.
Ms. Elaine?
Okay, just have a few things I just want to kind of get clear. Originally, you're saying there was a grant awarded because it was based on to try to clean up the Chalmers Street ditch. And as a result of that, it was expanded to 72 acres to address this problem, address that particular issue, is what I'm getting at. That it's expanded to that. Okay. And the problems that you are citing now as a result of this, of the project, is that the pipes are too small and you got sewage discharge into the stormwater system that's causing the problems that you are citing now for the city that caused this project to fail. Is that what, I mean, I'm just putting it, I know there's a lot more stuff you did because you pointed out.
There's more issues.
Yeah,
That is one issue.
that
you see,
is
Mr. Moore.
what I'm hearing, and that one of the things that I see that I was able to catch her that because the soil wasn't tested, that according to what you see, it may have been, but you were not able to find any documents to that. That related to that.
If I may too, Ms. Reed, so these are very technical issues.
Yes,
right,
it is.
with design and construction, okay?
You can come up and speak.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We're live. So people can-
I apologize. These are very technical issues, and they involve, they involve very specific areas of design, very specific areas of construction. I'm a lawyer, and I've been practicing the area of construction law for almost 30 years now. But still, when it comes to technical questions, that's not my area. I'm not an engineer. And so that's why in these areas you have to have a qualified engineer to advise you, to look at things. And you've got a good one in Mr. Moore. And so I don't think we've discovered the extent of what's out there. And so you've heard Mr. Moore say several times in his preliminary report. And, some of the things that we may need to do as we go forward is to do what's called destructive testing. We may have to literally go in there and tear some things out or do some things that will take out some of the items that are already in place. To do that, you need to have the contractor and or engineer, whoever's involved in a potential dispute, they need to be there with you. And so, this is all to the point that these are very technical issues, and so there may be more.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to determine
Yes, ma'am.
is what you are saying is what's the harm or what's happening to the area and to the residents of that. What are you citing that that this has failed, what kind of problems is causing to the residents over there? Because, and I'm only saying this, is because the original reason for how this project gets started was the Chalmers Street ditch, and the residents is kind of pleased with that. I mean, that cleared up.
Right.
We don't have that smell, and we don't have that stain and standing. But I understand that there's a lot more stuff going on because the project went quite an extended distance from the Chalmers Street ditch. But I want to be very clear as to what you are citing, what is happening to the residents of this area that we got to deal with. And you're pointing out very, technical stuff that I'm not understanding. I just want you to kind of tell me
The
that.
way I understand it is, the main thing I understand is that the residents of this town have paid for an over $2.5 million system that should last at least 20 years, Steve?
30 to 50.
30 to 50 years. And a year ago, we're getting calls that it's failing after not even 3 years being in the system. So to me, that's the biggest issue. Now, there are issues that Mr. Moore can tell you about where there's raw sewage being spilled into waters, and that's not good. And so the main issue is you have a failed system. And to me, you're the political person, but just when I think of something I buy, and when I'm a taxpayer, I want it to work. And if I'm paying my tax money to help fund a 30 to 50 year system, if it's failing after 3 years, I think that's an issue.
True, and I'm just trying to determine what you're saying is failing, because what you're saying is failing.
It's the whole system.
And I just try to,
Right.
and see, just that saying the whole system
Right.
is not really, for me,
Yeah.
layperson, who
Yeah.
don't know all of that. I need to know, is it the water not flowing? Because stormwater to us now that we've gotten some education about it, is that it helps keep the water flowing so we won't have flooding in a lot of areas. And truly, except for Broad Street, which the Southwest Drainage problem didn't address that, so that's still there. So that's why I'm saying I'm not hearing what it is. I'm just not hearing. And when we do have these sewage things across the other parts of the city, we are able to address it immediately. And you just have to, I'm just trying to get some clear, because I do represent that area, and I want to see what is happening to the residents as a result of this.
Sure.
If it failed, what is, what's happening? Are we gonna see more flooding? Are we gonna see sewage? What are we gonna see over there?
You're gonna see flooding potentially as the material continues to fill in the system. The subsidence around the pipes continue to fill into the system.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. What do you mean, just for the public, by subsidence?
Settlement.
Settlement.
Big settlement, big potholes and settlement holes.
Okay.
And you've got large cavities out there on top of the pipe now where I could step down into it and disappear.
Yeah.
That material's going into the system. It goes into the pipes and it's going into the storm drain system. So as you get below that 60-inch pipe and the pipes start getting smaller, now you're further reducing the capacity to carry the stormwater. So we don't know if the system, well, we do know the system was not properly designed to meet the basic criteria of storm drain events, 2, 10, 25. So to answer your question, ma'am, what's going to happen on the road is, as the pipes continue to get filled in it and the system starts to overcapacity, you start getting street flooding. The system won't carry the water, it flows out, it can't get in. And I'm not talking about the 1,000-year storm event that hit Columbia 8 years ago, or the 500-year storm event. I'm talking about some normal, what we call the old frog stranglers, where it's a quick storm, high intensity, short duration, and it just can't get in the system. And you start getting flooding, which prevents potential issues for homes or for vehicles in the streets.
You said last time you were here, at the end, is it an 18-inch pipe at the very end?
30-inch, I
30-inch
believe. So.
pipe, about half of that was full?
Two 36-inch pipes.
About half of that was already full, you said?
That's correct, sir. And the two 36 inches completely open don't even meet the requirements of a 60-inch, which is upstream of that.
There's a question about the construction company has gone out of business. The construction company has gone out of business, but the bond is still good, is that right?
This construction company, best as we can tell, they forfeited their license in South Carolina 2020. Look at the Secretary of State's website, it says they dissolved in 2021. You go to North Carolina, and you look at their Secretary of State's website, you get similar issues. Corporations do stay in existence, if you will, for purposes of wrapping things up and things like that, and so it is still sort of a quasi, it still is an entity, so to speak. But the reason a state law requires that all public construction projects over $50,000, you have to get a payment bond. Well, payment bonds come with performance bonds, so you get them together. A performance bond, one of the reasons for a performance bond is to, if a contractor goes out of business, if a contractor fails to meet its obligations, that the surety company will step in and meet those obligations. Now, that's the global purpose of a performance bond. Surety companies are not in the business of immediately saying, "Oh, sure, we'll be there right away," to fix it. They're going to do, if they accept liability at all, they're going to take a long time to do it. And so that's one of the reasons I recommend let's go ahead and send a letter out, because if you keep dealing with the surety company just without pressing the issue, it's going to take a while. I dealt with the surety company years ago where the surety company agreed, yeah, we need to step in, we need to take over. We had a second contractor ready to go. Everybody agreed to it. It was the most agreeable thing I've ever been a part of. It still took 4 months. It still took 4 months, and that's with everybody in agreement. You know, so yeah, we do have a bonding company, we do have a surety company, which is good. You know, we'll do our due diligence on the contractor to see if there's any assets there. Maybe there are. And so, but yeah.
Did you,
One last question,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sorry, Ms. Lang. Is there a statute of limitations issue?
John said he just heard an issue that he got called a year ago. So it's a 3-year statute of limitations. So problem, you know, and you would hardly ever, with this sort of thing, you would hardly ever expect any sort of issue to arise that quickly. But I remember John telling me when I asked him about that issue, so yeah, it started, you know, a little bit after I started here. And so that's about right. It started about a year ago, so.
and I just wondering, because I indicated you had, you said you had, y'all had sent some correspondence and no response for any of these insurance companies.
We've had response from the surety company, and it has not, let me put it this way, it has not said, we'll be there next week to fix it. Okay, so they right now they have said that they do not think they have any responsibility. Which is not unusual for a surety company.
Oh, okay, you're gonna have to educate.
Well, if you ever look in the big buildings that surety companies occupy, there's a reason for that. They're in the business of making money. They're not in the business of spending money. So they're gonna do their. That's all I'd like to. I want to stop it right there.
So question. So, bouncing off of what Elaine just asked you. So all the other issues that the city has had in the last 50 years, that is consistently the same thing, those companies, there's no liability after 3 years for those companies?
I mean, we'd have to, it's possible. You don't, it's, the statute of limitations it's not just a 3 years from the time something's finished. It's a very fact-intense issue, and I don't know what happened with the other projects. I don't know when they were finished, and so it's hard to say.
So I think that's something that we also need to look into, all those other projects, because we've had raw sewage running into storm drains, and especially Palm Street, and other areas in South Darlington for 50 years. So if they're gonna look at one project, then we need to look at them all, and not pick and choose projects.
No project that's 50, pipe is 50 years old, 100 years old is expected. He just said this is gonna last 30 to 50 years. But it's only lasted less than 2 years, and you spend that kind of money on it, we don't wanna just throw hands up and let it dissolve and leave it to the next group to take care of. So we're trying to do our due diligence to make sure that the money that was just spent, go out to the bonding companies or whoever needs to be taking care of the responsible parties. Stuff that was taken, the issues that were on Farm Street have been taken care of. Sewer's not there no more, but that stuff like that was pipes were 50 years old, 100 years old, sewer lines that were still collapsing, are still collapsing.
No, sewer's still on Farm Street, it's not been fixed.
I'm sure there's still, there's.
Yeah,
all
don't
the
say-
issues
don't
all
tell
the
nobody
time.
it's been taken
We
care
got
of.
pipes and,
That's not been taken
I'm
care
still
of.
talking. We've got pipes and
That's
stuff
not been
that are all
taken
through the
care
whole town that are decaying, and we've inherited, as most cities, lines that are 50 to 100 years old. It's time to repair them, that's what we're doing.
Mr. Nicholson, the right to cure the letter simply brings the matter to a head,
It's,
and that's all it does.
it's something that the General Assembly adopted many years ago, just so that if there's a possibility, rather than somebody just go out and file a lawsuit without talking to a contractor, that they at least have to send them a letter, certified letter, that says this is the issue, and,
And nothing takes place as far as the lawsuit is concerned until that letter is sent.
that's right.
So they can play drag the feet, kick the can down the road or whatever, because they don't have to act until we send in the right to cure letter.
Right. I mean, that's right. I mean, that's sort of the official kickoff, if you will, of a process. That's something, and again, there's some nuances. You could, you can do some other things, but you need to, if you don't file the letter, they can stop things from happening for a while. And so it's just better to go ahead and do what the statute says. And it's not very difficult. And, like I said, they've got 60 days to respond. Again, we've already sent them correspondence. It hasn't been an official claim letter, hasn't been pursuant to the statute. It's just trying to, hey, we've got this issue.
And the responses that you have gotten at this point in time are just not fully satisfactory.
They've either been not fully satisfactory or they've been no response at all. So,
And you said the project was funded without, the project was started without funding approval?
Based on the information I have, that's correct, sir. You awarded the contract, you issued a notice to proceed, and then you went out and tried to figure out how to pay for it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, does council care to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss any further tonight, or? Chew on this for a little bit and come back.
Mr. Mayor, I would simply, unless the other members of council want to go into executive session, I would just make a motion that we approve the sending of the right to cure letter by Mr. Nicholson, and then see how we proceed after that.
Do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Nettles?
Yes.
Ms. Backus? Ms. Reed? Okay, Mr. Seeger? Aye, motion's carried. All right, do I have an action to take, so we get an action to take on executive session, that was number 6. All right, have a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, raise your hand.